Welcome to Advanced Lesson Number 2, Building the Outline and First Body Paragraph. The essay takes shape. Now, if you remember from the last advanced lesson, we found our thesis statement. Now, let's take this thesis statement in, just to be sure we know what we're doing. It's assertive. That's the first thing you should notice. I'm telling you exactly why the play takes a very dark and somber tone. Often in thesis statements, you're looking for an answer, but you also want to explain your answer as well. So I say, at times, the play takes a very dark and somber tone because the innocent young lovers are threatened by characters, settings, and supernatural forces that seek to control or manipulate their love. Now, the characters, settings, and supernatural forces, that's my reasoning. That's my evidence. This is what I'm going to use in my body paragraphs to prove my thesis statement. The other thing you should notice, I'm also exploring themes of control and manipulation. That's the big idea I'm going to keep coming back to over and over and over again. I'm going to explain why someone controlling or manipulating love is dark, and why it gives that somber tone to the play. Now, like I said before, I'm exploring these themes of control and manipulation, so I have to ask myself, why is control and manipulation so dark and somber? And even though it is a comedy, the play starts off in a very strange way because Aegeus just is so malicious and so hurtful and so selfish that Hermia gets put in this dark, horrible place in which she has to decide if she should go to the nunnery or die for true love. So I do think the play starts in a more serious way than we might first notice. So the first time we see this theme of control is definitely in Athens. But if we think about it, how these themes continue throughout the play, we definitely see this theme of control and manipulation continue into the woods with Puck and Oberon and the love potion as well. So already I can see this theme and how it progresses throughout the entire play, and it doesn't really relax itself until the lovers escape the woods and no one tries to control them or manipulate them again. Then the play lightens up and it becomes a comedy. You'll remember in the last episode I started collecting evidence to use for my body paragraphs. So now I'm going to begin organizing that evidence. So here we go. Aegeus and Theseus, I think, will make a nice pair because they both try to control the young lovers in Athens. Next, to talk about that gloomy setting, I want to talk about the woods and the weather. Next up, because the lovers flee to the woods, within the woods they find Puck and Oberon and the love potion. Now, I need to be careful because that's a lot of information. So I might need to either create an extra paragraph or just briefly mention Oberon and focus more on Puck, but I definitely need to pay lots of attention to the love potion. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of room, so I think the lovers fighting and betraying one another, that's out. Gotta cut it. Now, it's not complete, and I need to see how this essay will take shape, but here's my outline. Now, one thing you might notice is that my outline follows a basic conflict graph. We start in Athens, we meet Aegeus and Theseus, and conflict starts to occur. The characters head out into the woods, they meet Oberon and Puck, and eventually things relax. And then the conflict starts to resolve itself, and they end up back in Athens, and everybody's married and happy. So if anything, my outline just follows the chronological order of the play. And if the beginning there is lots of control and manipulation, and in the middle of the play there's lots of control and manipulation, the end of the play relaxes itself very much and it becomes jovial and upbeat. So I think this is where I'm headed. If you want to take a look at it, please feel free to pause it and look at it more in depth. So I've broken my first body paragraph down into a color scheme so you can see each of the individual parts. The blue is the topic sentence, and remember, a topic sentence is something you are attempting to prove in this paragraph. Now remember, you have to prove something. You're not summarizing anything. You're trying to prove something. So I'm trying to prove that Aegeus and Theseus are the first characters to reveal the play's dark side. In order to do that, I need to bring up some evidence. I need to bring a quote in to show why they are so dark. But before I get there, I need to provide 2 sentences worth of background information to remind readers what's happening in the play. So I do that quickly here. Remember, we're in Theseus' palace. Aegeus wants Theseus to force Hermia to marry Demetrius, and Aegeus hates Lysander. I'm just quickly reminding my reader of what's going on in the play. And I'm almost ready to use my quote, but really quickly, be sure that you have this little section right here in brown. Angrily, he shouts. You need to tell us who is speaking, where the quote is coming from. So you always want to include that little section. Now, in green, I have my evidence. I use 2 small quotes simply because I need to prove both that Aegeus and Theseus are bad guys. And so I pick very, very short quotes, and I've cut them down to get exactly at their dark side. So I don't use a gigantic quote. I only use what I need. So I'm cutting these quotes to make them shorter specifically. Now, if you're reading along with me, already this evidence proves my topic sentence pretty clearly because Aegeus is willing to dispose of his own daughter to either Demetrius or her death according to our law. He's pretty unbending here, so this is really, really good evidence to prove his dark side. Also, Theseus, even though Aegeus seems kind of crazy to us, he tells Hermia that your father should be a god, and he has the power to figure or disfigure her. Both are pretty damning pieces of evidence against the men in the play. And finally, in my commentary, I have to explain why my quotes prove my topic sentence. So really quickly, these quotes reveal that the men are stubborn and unreasonable and merciless, that Aegeus is not selfless, nor is he loving, and he claims ownership over Hermia by calling her mine. Theseus, too, doesn't prove himself any better than Aegeus. He doesn't protect his citizen, Hermia, and he doesn't really seem interested in protecting the rights of women at all. So I say that he's either too weak or too cowardly to protect Hermia, and he lets Aegeus become her god. As far as we know, there's no one else to come in and help the young lovers. So Athens is a deadly home for Lysander and Hermia, which makes sense that they would need to flee to the woods. Now remember, you have to have these sections in each body paragraph. In fact, chances are this is what your teacher is looking for specifically. So you want 1 topic sentence, at least 2 sentences worth of background information, that little half sentence that it takes to introduce a quote, if you'll remember. Your evidence, chances are, might be 3 sentences long, probably 2 to 3 sentences, but your commentary is going to be anywhere between 4 to 6 sentences. Make sure that your teacher can see each of these sections very, very clearly. So to end this presentation, I want to talk about the relationship between a good quote and a good, well-written section of commentary. This is a quote from Aegeus talking about how Hermia is he says mine, and that he may dispose of her. In my commentary, I make it clear that we would expect a father to be selfless and loving, but clearly Aegeus our first impression of him is the exact opposite of this. He doesn't show any signs of these positive characteristics. Also, he seems very stubborn, unreasonable, and merciless in how he perceives the law. Also, the key word I really like in this quote is how he uses the word mine. If you use the word mine, you are really asserting a power dynamic, that a power dynamic exists in a relationship between two people. So I think it becomes pretty clear that Hermia is a possession rather than a human being. And finally, this is the quote from Theseus in response to Aegeus, and he says to Hermia, "Your father should be a god, and that Hermia is just a form in wax, and she is within Aegeus's power to leave the figure or disfigure it." This is the old quote, "I brought you into this world, and I can take you out of this world." It's 400 years old, but it's still there. And so I'm sure to mention Theseus's dark side as well. And I say that as a ruler, he should protect all of his citizens. He only seems interested in protecting men, the law, and he seems disinterested in protecting women. A king should be fair, he should be reasonable, but he seems too eager to let Aegeus have the right of being Hermia's god. If anything, Theseus should be able to choose what's right for his citizens, and he should be able to bend the law. As he does at the end of the play. Actually, he changes his mind and decides the lovers can love one another and be together. But at the beginning of the play, he doesn't do this at all. And so, finally, I say because of these two men, Athens is too far deadly a place for them to call home. And I'll end this video with this, reminding you that commentary is a very hard thing to do if you attempt to rush it. So remember, your commentary is simply explaining how your quote proves your topic sentence. So for me, obviously, I've already proven that Theseus is a weak king, a king that is not reasonable, a king that is biased towards men. Also that Aegeus, by saying that Hermia is mine, is selfish, stubborn. He's not a father that we would look up to or even recognize as being a father figure. And so those are a lot of complicated ideas, and they all come about just from looking at my quote. So remember, ask yourself, what does this quote show me? What does this quote prove? And if you pick your quote correctly, you're going to have lots to say. Just make sure you really break it down into 4 sentences. Don't rush it. Don't try to cram it all into one sentence. Pace yourself. And if you do that and you pick your quote well, you'll have a great commentary section.